Asana had a project on its books that it said would take 5 more years and $6 million. OpenAI's Codex finished it in 14 days for $12,000. OpenAI also published it on its own website saying, using OpenAI Codex, Asana replaced an outdated testing system in 2 weeks for about $12,000. And 1 day later, its finance chief told the whole company it's going public, which is the part that decides what happens to your roadmap next. So let's work this like a case file. 6 parts. Here's part 1, the crime. The crime is that a 5-year project disappeared. You've got an old tool holding your code base hostage, and swapping it out means touching hundreds of files by hand. It's slow, it's boring, and nobody wants to own it and deal with it. But maybe you did at your company, and that was the job security for you. Not anymore. That full-time job just got repriced at $857 a day for only 2 weeks, and then gone, no more. But no need to panic, right? At the end of this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact 4 agent setup that Asana used, but in Claude Code, which you can run tonight on your machine on that project that your team keeps dragging their feet on and differing. But before we get to that, you need to see what actually happened first, because the number everyone is throwing around isn't what you think it is. Part 2, the autopsy. What tool actually got cut open? It is called Enzyme, which is the tool that Asana company used to test its front end with. React Testing Library is the tool that is replacing it, doing the same job with completely different instructions. OpenAI's page lays out the procedure they took to write that new tool. They said, from a 5-sentence prompt, up to 4 coding agents worked in parallel, each in a separate copy of the code base. An engineer checked progress twice a day and reviewed every proposed change. Simpler instructions worked better than a more elaborate setup. The interesting part here is that the use of a simple, shorter prompt is very important. Then 1.5 weeks of actual engineering effort comes in, spread across 2 calendar weeks, and only $12,000 in model and infrastructure costs. Part 3, and this is where the case turns. The plot twist. The 5-year mentions was never real. Gregory Oros, he writes the pragmatic engineering on Substack, saw the number and called it out publicly as BS. He said exactly both companies believing this would take 5 years was amusing nonsense. And specifically, he said this on X. I imagine the conversation went like this. Manager, how long will it take? Give me something. Developer, annoyed. 5 years, okay? Now leave me alone. Haven't we all been there? Then Gergely went back and looked at the numbers again. And he came back and posted this. I was wrong about this. Extremely laborious migrations like this, testing framework migration, which is like 95% of the test code needs to be rewritten, is expensive as hell, uninspiring grunt work, and usually never gets done. Good on Asana and anyone using AI to turn it around from a years-long drag out to a 2-week project. And that, my friend, is the plot twist. The Enzyme project migration started in 2022, and nobody wanted to staff 5 more years of it at Asana. So OpenAI took a number that meant we're never doing this again and turned it around. Which brings us to part 4, the motive. So why publish this? And why publish it now? Well, on August 19th, 1 day after that case study went up, OpenAI's chief financial officer, Sarah Fryer, stood in front of employees at work at an all-hands and said the company will be a public company in 2027. Sooner, she said, if the business keeps growing fast enough. This is why that matters. OpenAI already filed its paperwork with regulators back in June, quietly. That filing is called an S1. And it's basically the sales brochure a company has to hand investors before it can sell them their stock. It has to explain why the business is worth buying into. And reporting says that brochure could go public within weeks, with a listing possible as early as September. Now let's look at what's actually in that brochure. Second quarter numbers put revenue at $6.7 billion, up 18% from the quarter before. Operating losses over the same stretch went from 9.3 billion to 12.3 billion. So losses are growing faster than the revenue does. When you're about to ask the public to buy your stock and buy into your company with numbers like this, you don't lead with the losses. You lead with a customer like Asana standing up and saying, this thing paid for itself 500 times over. Fryer told staff, the IPO is not a finish line. It is a milestone, another fundraise. Yep, another fundraise. That's her words. And the Asana story is what you show people before a fundraise. Part 5, the defense, because the case has won and it's a good one. Over on Hacker News, working engineers pushed back on what finished means here. The argument is a change this big usually goes through by touching code that most people were afraid to touch for very good reasons. The tests get rewritten. The AI gets the headline. And then things quietly break for months while people fix them with no press release. And that is the actual failure mode of every large migration ever run by a human or by AI. Asana says the removal is complete. But really, nobody outside Asana can check that. Part 6, the verdict. Every senior engineer has a list on their backlog they don't want to deal with. The migration you keep pushing off. The framework that's 2 major versions behind. The service nobody will touch. For years, that list was a liability you apologized for in your planning meetings. As of last week, it is a pile of 2-week mini wins and projects. Your leadership is going to see that $6 million to $12,000 number on OpenAI's front page, which also, by the way, got 1 million views in a day and is heading into an investor's deck. So now the question inside your company stops being whether to do the migration and starts being who gets to run it. So run the first one yourself, and here's how. Step 1. In your repo, run echo.claude/worktrees in.getIgnore. One line that keeps the copies out of your main checkout. Step 2. Make a file called .worktree and put it inside your project root directory. Put your .environment file also in it. And here's why that matters. Each copy is a fresh checkout. So your local secrets aren't there, and your tests will fail for a reason that has nothing to do with the migration. Step 3. This is the one that really does the work and matters a lot. Create a file at .claude/agents/migrator.md. Put 3 lines there that matters. Name, migrator, and description. And then the line that really matters is isolation:work3s. A single line is what gives every agent its own separate copy of the code base, exactly like Asana's setup. Step 4. In your settings, set worktree base ref to head. Default behavior branches from main. You want it branching from the work you're actually on. Step 5. Start Claude. Hit Shift-Tab until you get into the planning mode. So you read first and then you write. And give it a short, simple prompt, 5 sentences. What's coming out? What's going in? Run the tests. Don't touch anything outside the test files. Report what you couldn't convert. Then tell it to use worktrees for its agents, 4 of them. Now you walk away, come back, and there you go. You can run get worktree list, and there's your 4 copies. Diff each one of them, and that becomes the document you bring to your leadership, because when the Asana number lands in your all hands meeting, everybody in that room will have an opinion, but you, my friend, will have an actual artifact. Don't let the next corporate update be a surprise to you. Hit subscribe now so you're the first to know. And as a thank you, meet my dog, Caden, with 0 AI anxiety and 100% job security. Now that you've seen how a number gets built for investors, go watch the one about the number they're building about you. It's right here.